going through compare questions. So I have a range of questions on this slide and the next, and I feel like with these questions, they are the easiest to grasp, I believe. It takes time to actually understand it first, but once you really internalize how the mark scheme wants you to write your answers, it gets easier for sure. In particularly this question. I think I had done this question, I don't know, like 6 times this year in preparation for my A-level exams. This one, I mean, the compare and contrast the circulatory systems of mammals and fish, only because every time I wrote my answer again, I understood something different from the mark scheme, and that helped me develop my exam technique when coming to do compare questions. They normally come up as 6 markers, but we shall see. So we have that question on top that I read. Then the next question, again, circulatory systems. Then we have the heart, PCR. Yeah. And one thing you should know is that this graph, examiners love it. It comes up every single year. Who knows? It might come up on your paper. Because it did in mine. It's something that you need to understand everything about. And it's not that hard. At first, it's very hard to grasp because there's so much going on. And it's like, well, where do you even start? Like, where do you look? Left to right, right to left, top to bottom, you know? But I'd really recommend you take the time. Take the time to understand what every single line represents and what it is doing at that specific time. So, yeah, anyways, what do all these questions have in common? For me, I can see that they're comparing two separate or similar things. For example, processes in this question and this question. And it is very common actually to see compare and contrast together, so don't be scared or shocked. So let's go through an example. Again, compare and contrast the circulatory systems of mammals and fish. This question taught me a lot, as I said before. The similarities that the mark scheme wrote here baffled me actually. To think that the mark scheme wanted you to say something as simple as they both have a heart, crazy concept. Because I thought it was a given. I thought I didn't need to write that. And that's why I always say state all the obvious points because it is a mark. Yeah, so question is, how do you approach this? Well, what I would do starting off is I would annotate around the question. There's one thing I wanted to say with that. I got my papers back, my biology A-level papers, and I saw the annotations that I wrote on it and how the examiner marked my paper. And I did see that around the work I'd written, they ticked some of the stuff I wrote that I didn't include in the written place or like the lines. So that's something to bear in mind, but don't rely on that. I'm just saying that sometimes you can get marks from it. Anyways, so firstly, you write down all that you remember from circulatory systems, and then you think of any similarities you can see from the list of annotations. So remember to state all obvious points. I mean, anyone could say they both have capillaries or arteries or something. They're very easy points, and they're marks, aren't they? And for differences, I like to make a table, just like the mark scheme did, because I found that if I wrote my answer in a paragraph, I'd be repeating the same points. And not only was it so long and time consuming, but I couldn't keep track of what I was trying to say because it wasn't clear at all. But by setting it out in a table, you can see clearly what you're trying to say. Not only that, it makes it easier for the examiner to mark. So, yeah, have a read. I'd strongly, strongly recommend you writing down the answers in the mark scheme here in your notes. Memorize it, put it on Quizlet, something like that. Whatever you do, memorize these points. And yeah, so 2 most important exam techniques are read the question first and state all the obvious points, because we saw how beneficial that is, especially when it comes to similarities. Try some questions and let me know how you do.